Hello everybody. Today I am addressing American Democrats. We all know things need to change, and when it does, you guys are going to be left with a huge opportunity, because there is going to be a big push for change, probably like you guys haven't seen in literally hundreds of years, maybe. We have two different forms of government. I'm a Canadian. Our form of government we took from the Europeans. You guys decided to make up your own. Way back before color TV, you guys had a party in Boston and dumped a bunch of tea in the water and decided only to drink coffee. Up in Canada, we just said we'd like to drink both, if that's okay with you. And that's what we did. I guess that's an analogy for you guys dumped the coffee and said no, or dumped the tea. You said no to the tea, and you said no to their form of government and their laws, which have been working quite well, I'm assuming. Up in Canada, we didn't separate as early as you guys did. We hung around for a while and sold them a bunch of beaver pelts. I'm sure we were ripping them off, man. Boy, did they love our beaver pelts. Hold on, I gotta get up here. So yeah, we hung around, stuck around with Europe long enough to adopt their laws and their form of government. And eventually, I think we just asked politely to leave, and they probably said, yeah, sure, why not? So, I'm going to briefly tell you guys how our system works and how it gives the people of Canada a great deal of control over their government, which I know you guys aren't feeling like you have right now. And it's up to you to decide which system is better, but I'm going to explain to you why the parliamentary system gives people more power. The parliamentary system is never mentioned, rarely mentioned by your politicians. The information in this video and my thought process through this video was spurred by something I heard a Republican senator say during the first term of your president, current president. I'm reluctant to say his name, honestly. So we're going back, at least 6-7 years. And what that Republican senator said, I'm going to tell you at the end of this video, because I think it's really the key to start the process of change, okay? Now, in Canada and most places that have the parliamentary system, like Europe, have multiple parties. You guys have your two parties. In Canada, we've got 5. I think there's 6 in other places like Scotland. I don't know. I'm not going to be quoting stuff like that because I don't know. In Canada, we have the 3 main parties. We have the Liberal Party, the Conservative Party, and the NDP, which stands for New Democratic Party. And they all have power. In a parliamentary system, we have what's called a minority or majority government. If there's an election and the party that wins with 45% of the vote, I know that's unheard of down there because in America you can't win with 45% of the vote, but in Canada you can. Because the winning party can have 45% of the vote, the second party can have 35, and the third party can have 20. And this is a fairly common split between the top three parties in Canada. So then what you're left with is a minority government. A majority government being if the party that won got more than 50% of the vote. Simple. The thing about a minority government, which is something a lot of us Canadians sometimes prefer our government to be in that state, is if the majority party has 45%, and then 35 and 20, that adds up to 55%. The other two parties can form a coalition and call an election. We only have elections every 4 years unless there's turmoil in the government. If there's turmoil in the government, which means the people are unhappy, right? The other two parties will seize the opportunity to call an election. We've had a minority government for quite a while right now. The Liberals are in power. A coalition can work both ways. Right now, the NDP party in our country is propping up the Liberals a little bit and probably has prevented an election. But if you've been following Canadian politics, we were pretty upset with the Liberals last year. That is changing now, though. There is a shift going the other way, I do believe, and for good reason. So the point being, if the government in power has a minority government, they have to behave themselves or they'll be out. The other thing the parliamentary system solves, it's self-impeaching. Bear with me here. It's a tough comparison, but if you guys had the parliamentary system, I'm going to make the argument that George Bush Jr. would have had an election called and been put out of office. And the other guy too, in his first term. In George Bush's election, if you remember, you guys are going to figure out how much us Canadians know about your politics. When I was a kid, I asked my dad once why he watched so much American politics. And he said, which was a common phrase back then, America sneezes and Canada gets a cold. Where was I? Right. So, getting back to George Bush. During that election, he ran against Al Gore. Al Gore, who was a staunch climate change believer. How different, I used to think how different the world would have been if Al Gore got elected. But, and this is where the comparison comes in, so I'm trying to figure this out. George Bush did not get the popular vote. He won the Electoral College, whatever that is. But he did not get the popular vote. Neither did your current president 8 years ago. So if we treat the fact that he didn't get the popular vote like he had a minority government, when it was found that there were no weapons of mass destruction, the other parties would have called an election. Not saying that's right or wrong. That's what would have happened if this was Canada. Eight years ago, he did not have the popular vote, remember, so we're equating this to a minority government. He would have had an election called over his handling of COVID. And gone. And this is a conclusion I came to about the parliamentary system versus the one you guys have, is that our system is self-impeaching. And that gives us a lot of power, and it's a simple way forward. When you've got someone in there that starts fucking up and you need to get rid of them, you can very quickly. In Canada, there's no election cycle. Many of our elections are called ahead of time, many aren't. But when an election is called, they set a date for 2-3 months or whatever it is. Sometimes it's sooner than that. And the election runs for 40 days only, 40 days. They only have 40 days to campaign. They only have 40 days to run ads on TV, and it's done. And we go back to our lives. They go back to taking care of our country. And if they do good things, we don't hear from them. If they do bad things, they hear from us. So now here's the trick. We all know that this kind of change in your country is going to be so difficult. But like I said, you're coming to an inflection point, and I don't see a better chance than this time now for you guys to do this if this is what you wish. Now, what the Republican senator said in the Senate, they were talking about the filibuster, which I know nothing about. But I heard the Republican senator say, if we get rid of the filibuster, we'll be left with a parliamentary system. If we get rid of the filibuster, we'll be left with a parliamentary system, and we don't want that. That's what the Republican senator said. Okay? So maybe, you know what my qualifications are for this? I'm a truck driver who never graduated high school. Okay? So there's that. The Democrats' rallying cry needs to be bust the filibuster. Let me know what you think. I'm going to leave it there. Take care.